Thank you very much for being here now for the round table. I won't say much because you already know Manu very well, probably, and he speaks much better than me. So welcome to him, and the floor is yours. Thank you very much all for being here today.
So thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure coming back home for the first time. Thank you very much for the Quality Commission. It's a pleasure that you have accepted to give this talk in this day, which is so important for us. I would just like to give a very little introduction about Gracia. Gracia is a group of people who are behind all these activities that we are organizing for the Pride Week. Gracia is like a working group of people working at the IAA interested within all these LGTB issues. We are part of the Equality Commission, and we are very glad that these events are taking place today because it was born like a joke. We said, okay, we are people interested in these kind of subjects, let's do something, and we are finally making something. Apart from the wonderful talk that Eleonora has given before and from this round table, I strongly invite you to go to the demonstration who will take place this Friday at 7:30 from the square of Isabel Católica, right? Yes. So last year we went there all together like as the IAA. I think it was the first time that the whole institute was there and it was very positive. So I strongly invite you to come here. To come this year. So now let's give the word to our guests. Thank you very much for coming here. I will start from Óscar here, and the idea is that I am going to introduce you. You will have like 10 minutes if you want to speak about the subject and about whatever you want. And when we finish after 40 minutes, we will give the word to the public, okay, to the audience, and we will make a question and answers session. So first of all, I will start by my beloved friend, Óscar Huertas. He holds a degree in biochemistry. He is doctor in microbiology and master in biotechnology and scientific culture and expert in management of communication projects and scientific dissemination. After a short period of 10 years in research, he moved on to communication with the association Hablando de Ciencia, where he is the president currently. Then with his own company, Laniakea Management and Communication, and later at the university, he's also the treasurer of the Spanish Association for Scientific Communication, and he's currently the head of communication at the DaSCI UGR Institute. So the goal, I have forgotten to speak about that. The title of this roundtable is LGBTIQ Roundtable towards a more diverse and inclusive science. So the first question for you is, I would like to be interested in your personal in your personal path within science, being a person from the community LGBTI.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank to the Institute of Astrofísica for organizing this session.
Okay.
No? Sorry. I would like to thank to the Institute for organizing this session, all of you for coming to participate in it. My dear Manu, because he knows how hard it is for me to accept this invitation. The first thing I would like to, the first thing I would like to say is that I have had more negative, inappropriate, hateful, and derogatory comments at my workplace because I'm fat more than because of my sexual orientation. And the reason is very clear. My obesity is visible, but my sexual orientation is not. How could anyone notice about this? Because I'm a white man, cis man with a partner in the opposite sex, and I have a child. So it's logical that my sexual orientation is not the reason for these comments. Most bisexual people find it easier to come out of the closer being a gay or lesbian people, or appearing to be straight on the axis of the society, depending of the life of experience. This is in line with the first idea I want to bring to this table, which is that the people of bisexual orientation are much less out of the closet than gay, lesbian people, or trans, or other people. I guess that's why we are the fourth letter in the LGBTIQ. No, it's a joke. But it's real. We are less. We appear less in these issues. 75% of the LGBT community have at some point hidden its work. 41% of the community socially out of the closet between 18 to 25 years old have returned to the closet once they enter to the labor market. This is weird. 44% of the gay person are out of the closet at work, 38% of the lesbian people, but only 14% of the bisexual people are out of the closet in the work environment. And there may be several reasons for that. One is we are less, obviously. The second will be less of a historical struggle of the community to make bisexuality visible. But perhaps is that we are a reality that it's uncomfortable even within the community. It is still considered that it's a phase, but believe me, it's not a phase. I think that the stereotypical image of what is a man or what is a woman is still not totally deconstructed in the society. The other one is that it can also be influenced by the lack of reference. The second idea I would like to contribute is that I believe that science popularization, science outreach, has done a lot to make the LGBT community more visible in general. I think it has also done a lot for the visibility of women in science and technology, but I think this is true for the community. We polarizers have public profiles, and along with our work, we expose our life, expose our way of life. So somehow it's a way to expose that phase of our life. I have organized dozens of events. I have always tried to make into account several criteria. The gender parity is one of them, but also the diversity. The Round of Ciencia event in the 6th edition, it was very curious. One thing that happens, we decided to do a thematic sessions, and one of the sessions was the rainbow sessions, in which people from LGBT community issues affecting our community were given visibility. We received a lot of critical voices from persons who didn't want to participate in the session because they feel that they were invited only because they belong into the community. Others that feel that it was unnecessary to say that these people are gay, trans, or whatever. But above all, that year, the session, the rainbow session, was the most attractive of the all attention in the media and in the program. The curious thing is that no one was invited to this session who had not participated in the Round of Ciencia before. So in other words, the diversity was already part of the event, and the problem somehow is to make it visible. And that's why we did it.
But that was new. That was new.
You was, oh yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you come this year to Granada.
Yeah, I wasn't in the city before. Yeah. Look, I cheated.
With this issue.
It was an amazing session.
Of the visibility of the community in size comes the third topic I would like to talk about. On these issues, the fears arise, the fears appears. Just as women sometimes wonder whether they have been invited because they are women or for the works, Sometimes the LGBT community also wonder whether the same things happens in certain environments. There's a question that I have not resolved. Do we have to make it visible, or do we have to normalize the situation? For me, the ideal will be that the data tell us that women and men access to the position of responsibility with the same frequency, but it's not. I would love that the data tell us that no one has to go back into the closet because they began to work in one site for sexual orientation or gender identity, but the data doesn't tell us that. So the data tell us that 29% of the trans and bisexual people have experience of harassment. 26% of the people experience discrimination, and 8% of these people have experienced assault. So as long as the data says that, normalization is not possible. Science and technology is connecting with mental health is very deteriorated. The predoctoral person suffered twice the massive stress, depression, and suicide than the rest of the population. So if you add an additional factor of stress or discrimination, things get worse. So this is the three ideas I want to.
Unfortunately, I mean, we will discuss about that later on, but unfortunately, when you are a LGBTIQ plus people, you have to be going out of the closet all your life. All your life. You arrive to a new job and you have to explain everybody again that you do not have a girlfriend, that you have a boyfriend called Robert, and which is like that. Etc. Thank you very much. I'm very glad also to introduce you our second guest, Rocío. I have said Rocío. Rocío Sola Jiménez. She studied art history at the University of Granada, so she's like she's art historian between scientists right now. They hold a master's degree in comparative studies in literature, art, and thought, and a doctorate cum laude in humanities from the Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona. Their main lines of research address the question of space and landscape in avant-garde art from the theory of affects, although they have also specialized in German literature of the interwar period in terms of gender, as well as in queer and LGBTQIA+ press studies in the Weimar Republic. They have recently completed a Margarita Sala research stay at the University of Granada in the Department of Art History, have participated in several research projects with European funding, and is coordinating a book on German and Austrian women writers in exile in the interwar period. In Granada, they are a member of Antirracismo Granada and an active member of the Coordinadora del Orgullo Crítico, Critical Pride Coordinating Committee. Welcome, Rocío.
Thank you very much.
I would like to ask you, I mean, I know that you are an expert, let's say, on this queer theory, etc. Could you explain more about that to this audience? I think most of us we are not aware about this queer movement.
Sure. Thank you very much. And first of all, like, good afternoon, and thank you also for the Institute for inviting me here and being like the weird little autistic person within scientists and brilliant people. And I feel a little bit of pressure, and I feel overwhelmed being surrounded by such a brilliant environment. And I think that I have to make a very good performance on behalf of my fellows artists and humanity researchers. And so I think that queer theories and queer methodologies are very well linked to what the previous seminar was about, like intersectionality, because I think that within queer theories, we are discussing things like a little bit different, no? By this kind of research, we enhance this self-reflective awareness. So, I mean, we have to be very aware of ourselves, our history, our experience. Experience is something very important. Like, I'm connecting with what my colleague Óscar was saying. And the main position of queer methodologies is to stand against this reinscribing the subject in these fixed notions of gender, sexual, and racial issues. And by that, I want to also thank this privileged space and this privileged place of talking, because myself, I feel very privileged to be here. And I also feel that there's a lack of certain kinds of people in knowledge, in science, and in university in general. And I'm not only talking about LGBTQA+ people, I'm also talking about racialized people and racialized queer people, which actually do exist, which actually come into universities, and they are also lured by this idea of inclusivity. And sometimes I fight a little bit against this word, because I feel like when we talk from the Western academia settlement about inclusivity, it's like if we were in a birthday party and we were saying, no, just come over, we have some cake, it's our cake, you may have some, but if you misbehave, feel free to go out. Because I think that there's a over-policing over these certain profiles of people, whether you are LGBTQ, whether you are a racialized person, you have to behave in a Western society, in a Western institution like university and research piece. And by that, I feel that there's some struggles that Óscar was putting into the table that really resonates with my experience, because I feel that as bi people are more closeted. Let's talk about non-binary. I mean, that's the first time that I'm presenting myself as a they/them person in research, because when I was trying to do that the first time, it was at a conference dinner that I was organizing. And this person, I'm not gonna say the name or the charge, maybe this person will see that, but there was a person who told me that non-binary people don't exist. And if they do say so, like they exist, it's just because they want to hinder other struggles that the LGBTQ+ community have. So it's like, no, you have this problem, this pronouns issue. You have this idea of, I have to assume that you're something else outside of the binary norm. And I think that's something that really these queer methodologies and these queer studies are also proposing, kind of, no? And by that, I mean not to be very corseted in certain methodologies, certain procedures that are really biased by this thing called the scientific method. I think you might be familiar with that. But it also comes from this idea of segmenting, classifying, naming from this Western part of the world, other things, other realities, other procedures of making knowledge, of speaking about experiences that are not ours, are not the white people, Western people experiences and ways of perceiving the world. And I think that intersection here is very important. Interdisciplinarity is something that I feel that enriches a lot this scientific environment. And I will aim people just to be more open-minded, to listen other voices, to listen other procedures of making knowledge, of doing in general, to listen other people telling their experiences, and to handle also this kind of discomfort that maybe can come from listening, something that maybe, I don't know, we think that we're doing that, something bad. Oh no, but I'm not a bad person. I'm just very open in this idea, blah, blah, blah. No, let's handle this discomfort. Let's hear other people. Let's also consider other ways of making this kind of researches also, because as an humanities researcher, I don't know, like as a person who comes from the human sciences, I feel like when you're applying for grants or scholarship or things like that, there are two things that always take me back from getting the grant, and that is methodologies, because I'm not having like a very strict methodology that a person can assume like as a scientific procedure. And it's like, okay, I'm researching literature. What has to do a scientific procedure with this kind of studies? And second of all, just because I think it has a lot to do with the experience of reading, the experience of handling, of touching, of being in the space where you are researching. And the second thing is internationalization. And the main thing that shows that there's a huge internationalization in science is that this conference, for example, this roundtable is being held in English. And I feel like institutions make difficult for us to create networks of knowledge and networks of people with some lasting or long-lasting impact in our own communities and within our own people, or I don't know, like building these bridges between disciplines, etc., because they're always forcing you to go abroad, spend a couple of years in this place, then another couple of years somewhere else, and maybe you're 45 and you don't have a position, which I don't want in my life. I don't know, that doesn't sound very appealing to me as a person who also struggles building networks with people and building networks with researchers that understand me and celebrate me and also want to work with me and accepting me by the person I am. And I think that's something that really encourages you to do as young researchers or as more experienced researchers, to build networks, to do these mutual aid groups in universities, and stop competing that much, stop believing that that's the only way of making progress, and start listening to each other, start helping each other, caring for each other. And I think that would be like a better methodology in my opinion, and a better way of making science a little bit more human.
Thank you very much, Rocío. Our
Thank you.
Our next guest, Juana Bermejo Vega. She holds a PhD in physics and computer science. She's a specialist in quantum computing from the Technical University of Munich. She holds a Ramón y Cajal Researcher, ayuda, consolidación and horizon RIA Principal Investigator at University of Granada, and she holds a Marie Curie Atenea 3.1E at the University of Granada, Spain. Have I been clear, more or less?
Yes.
Yes. She has been a postdoctoral researcher at the Free University of Berlin, Germany, between 2016 and 2019. And previously, she was a predoctoral researcher at the Max Planck Institute for Quantum Optics in Munich, Germany. She has a double degree in physics and technical engineering in computer science from the University of Salamanca, Spain. And she's an activist for rights, equality, and inclusion in science. She is the co-founder and co-organizer of the Q-Turn Inclusive Quantum Information Conference held between 2018 and 2023, and the Equal Opportunity Group of the Max Planck Institute PhD Net between 2014 and 2017. Before entering here, we have been discussing more or less the issues that we wanted to discuss on this roundtable, and she has told me, Manu, I want to speak about harassment in the academia, just for the fact of being a trans woman. So you have 10 minutes, and afterwards we will discuss more. So
I have a question. Should I speak here?
There.
Okay.
To the wrong one?
Do these mics couple? People.
Yeah, that one is for us.
They are not coupling, right?
No.
Thank you, Manu. You are adorable. I'm impressed to see Manu speaking so seriously, because we are, several people in the table. We are famous for being among the top leaders in mamarrachismo in this country, which is very hard to translate. So somebody please translate this during the talk. I would like to mention that, sorry if I'm looking at my phone every now and then, because I'm trying to hire a postdoc from Portugal, and she's queer, and she's having trouble with the administration of the University of Granada. So I'm trying to solve it. And I would like to mention that I'm very happy to be here with you. This is one of the best companies I've ever seen in a panel. I'd like to add that I felt quite close to what Rocío and Óscar mentioned. I'm also bi. I actually experienced some exclusion because of being fat when I was younger, not now. And I'm non-binary, and I relate a lot to the topic of intersectionality. I don't do arts, but I might have an artistic side. And this thing that Rocío was mentioning is pretty shitty, sorry for the words. So myself, I am from Extremadura, Spanish woman. I Queer, queer in the strongest possible sense. Queer means weird in English. It means desviado, rara. I'm a person that I go everywhere and people look at me like, what is this supposed to be? And so I'm very queer and I'm very intersectionally. So I am a queer woman and I'm trans. Intersection means I belong to several underrepresented oppressed groups. So I'm queer, I'm a woman, I'm bisexual, I'm trans and gender fluid, I'm non-binary, and many letters in the alphabet. I am somewhat in the sexual spectrum, but I'm not sure where.
You are the plus of the.
Yeah, I think then the dot, etc. whatever. I am neuro. The J de Juana and the J de joder. How do you remember all of that? I am neurodivergent. I am very autistic. I am ADHD and I'm plural. I have several women living in one body, and you can see them because I frequently drag. Because I'm also transvestite. That remembers me. The first time I was seeing these guys in an academic context, there was here in Desgranando Ciencia, a very good drag workshop organized by Óscar and collaborators from Desgranando. So this reminds me of that. So I would like to honor that by saying you should drag more often whenever you want, including in the academic environments. I've given talks wearing demon horns, and the talk was excellent. The room was crowded. It improves the quality of scientific presentation a lot. So I'm very weird. I work in physics. I am at this stage of my career where I'm building a group. I right now have a lot of funding and more work than I can handle. So I'm trying to hire people to help me. And curiously, 1.5 years ago, I was unemployed because I got a Marie Curie position, but I didn't manage to get the ANECA tenure track requirements for becoming permanent. And I lost my contract, and it was pretty fucked. I was fucked in the head. I was seriously having a bad time, mental health wise. And one of the reasons is, lots of shit happened to me when I transitioned also. And I had problems with getting some enough hours of teaching, which looks very silly, but it's one because I was quite international. I was doing my degree all the time abroad. It was hard for me to get the hours of teaching. And this is just, this is a specific example, but in the academic career, to become permanent, researchers have to prove themselves perfect at so many different things that sometimes if you have a tiny inconvenience in your life or a different situation than normal people, or you are not white, medium class, and your parents are university professors, you might have trouble to go through all of this. And actually, this reminds me that when I try to hire people, I always want to advertise the jobs from queer people. I tried to hire many queer people in the past, and it failed. So, and very often I have found excellent researchers, brilliant. People I really wanted to work with that had bad grades. And the bad grades came from, I just had to work while I was doing the university. Or, I had to, my parents kicked me out when I transitioned, or instabilities that when you are just very queer and very weird and very oppressed, and more so you're from some intersectional background, sometimes shit happens to you and your life is less stable. You don't have the stability to study and get good grades. And this happens a lot to queer students, and it's one of the greatest barriers to access the system. Starting with many people, for example, many trans women I know don't have the CVs to get into academia whatsoever. Many of them didn't even have enough time and stability financially and time-wise to study and finish their majors. Also, this happens to other oppressed women or other intersectional groups. You don't see that many Roma women in academia or that many racialized women. Whenever you belong to several categories, well, more things happen to you. That's what intersectionality means, that oppressions do not add up, they multiply. Whenever you belong to several groups, the more things happen to you. And in the last years, I was actually my activism started doing anti-harassment activism. That's like I don't consider myself a diversity and inclusion activist. I consider myself an anti-harassment activist because the reason why I started doing activism was my colleague and friend name prefers not to be mentioned, started stopping mobbing from his supervisor in the Technical University of Munich. And actually, this guy was a dude, and he was white, and he wasn't the obvious person who receives sexual abuse. It wasn't a woman, and it wasn't sexual abuse. It was a manipulative psychological harassment and mobbing. And I've been doing, safe codes of conduct, anti-harassment protocols, and networks to help people who have experienced harassment in the past during my career. That's actually why I started doing QTurn. QTurn is an initiative, it's a conference we organize where we do diversity and inclusion talks within the program, and we try to make the environment safer for people from underrepresented backgrounds. It's one project that was actually quite successful. People, for instance, usually in physics, we have 10% women attendees, and they're usually in one corner, clustering. And that's the woman corner effect in physics. You put some women in a conference and they all go to a corner. And this happens also to queers and to people who are racialized. It's common. And it was a very cool conference that we got like 3 times more women, for instance. But it was it's a patch. It's not a solution. It follows the same system. We have to have a call for papers selection, and many people cannot get a talk in QTurn just on the format itself. And I continue doing anti-harassment protocols in feminist spaces and queer spaces, all kinds of spaces. I've done it in discotheques, I've done it in pink parties, and I'm very familiar with it. And in the last year, I've been pretty fed with this one situation. So I'm going to tell an anecdote I'm living still right now. I currently am working with a person who has a complaint of gender violence with psychological violence to their partner, girlfriend, also student from the same university. It happened in Turkey, and I'm speaking about this so freely because it's on the newspapers, it's everywhere, so it's not hidden information. But I have to work with this person because this person is actually potentially winning the legal case against the person who is suing. And now what happens is, if you look at the anti-harassment protocols, it all looks pretty bad. For this person got a complaint, reprimand from the university, who had to leave campus for some time. Students are protesting, and it's in the newspapers. Actually, this never ever happens when you have a harassment case. Normally it becomes invisible and you don't hear about it. That's the 99.9% of the cases. And I cannot do anything because the person that's potentially the guy is winning the legal case. With a DARVO, double type of defense, they are arguing that the person is actually the aggressor and that the student is crazy and they are attacking back. And now the situation here is this person, well, the European Union that will actually coordinates the project, and the universities cannot do anything legally because legally this person is not guilty. And several collaborators believe that he is innocent, and I disagree. And I cannot do anything, or some people who are also comfortable working with him cannot do anything whatsoever. And the University of Granada specifically told me that they will only help me in case that there is a sexual harassment case. The current protocol we have, it doesn't help you with mobbing or stalking or other types of harassment. And actually, becoming more constructive, I want to argue that we need better harassment and mobbing protocols. Because when this kind of thing happens, our protocols are not good enough. And sometimes harassment is not sexual and it's of a mobbing nature, and you get excluded because your colleagues ban against you because you are weird, and you just get isolated in projects. With that, I will pass the turn to the next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much for last but not least, you already know her because she has given a wonderful seminar just before. Her name is Eleonora Fiorellino. She's from Rome, Italy, and she studied at La Sapienza University of Rome for her bachelor and her master. She also has done her PhD in astronomy, astrophysics, and space science in Rome, which is joined between INAF, La Sapienza, and Tor Vergata University.
Very complicated.
during her PhD, she won the ISO studentship, and she spent 1 year at ISO in Garching, Bermejo. After the defense of her PhD thesis in 2020, she started a postdoc in Budapest at Concoli Observatory. And after that, she came back to Italy, where she was currently working as a postdoc until this week, because now you're moving to the Canary Islands, right? She was working, she was making a postdoc at INAF at the Observatory of Naples. She will start a new position at IAC in Tenerife in July, so next week. And since she's been studying at the university, she's been very interested in EDI activities. Among other things, she was in the working group for the JEP at Concoli, and she's an active member of the INAF EDI work group named Universe All. You have been talking a lot about intersectionality, etc. How those fights go together, how do they match? Because I always have the feeling that when we organize tables like that, or when we speak about the LGTB movement, we focus on the G, and the L, the B, and the T are underrepresented. So, which is your feeling about that?
Okay, so I actually say that I started wondering about LGBTQI plus issues, actually reading the Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. Now, you know that she is a feminist, like one of the first ones. And if you read that book, like it contains the seeds of the queer theory that have been developed later. So to me, it's not like I was born in 1991, so maybe it's also generational. But to me, it's not this gender equality goal is not well. It's very related to the LGBTQI plus issues. I don't know how to define them. Existence maybe. And I think that there are many ways by which we can consider different kinds of discrimination, because I mean this is the key word that maybe we fail to mention often. But the point is that as long as we deviate from what is defined by someone as the norm, and usually people who define what is the norm are people belonging to that norm, we start experiencing some kind of discrimination. And it's not like that there is a discrimination which is higher or more important than another one. So luckily I was not the first one talking about intersectionality here, and I'm very happy about it. It's just a way to be aware of different kinds of discrimination that are holds in the society. But I'm also an EI activist because I'm a scientist, an astronomer, and I would like to do this job. So I'm trying to reconnect it to what Rocío told before. The academic world is very competitive and very vertical. There is a lot of power going on, and there are a lot of differences in power. And I think that this is the link with all the activism against discrimination that we do. I mean, it's a fact that PhD students and postdocs experience very huge mental health issues because of this, because of a strong disbalance of power. So our whole entire careers depend on what our supervisor and the community in general thinks about us. I mean, think about all the recommendation letters. This could be very good if you do have a good relationship with your supervisor, or it could be like the death of your academic life. And I think this is related to gender discrimination, because even in gender discrimination, we're talking about difference in power. The fact that there is a norm which has been defined is only because, historically speaking, the people belonging to that norm hold the power. It's just about it. That's only that's the point. so the goal, I mean, at least to me, is to try to redistribute the power. And this is something that we should do like on a daily basis. And of course, I mean, it depends on how much power we have. The more power we have, and the more effective we can do. So either we have a very important role, like we are the directors of some institutes or the PI of some very large program, or we don't have much power. And in that case, we need to do things together to, gain all the power which is needed to redistribute them. So I will also like add another thing to the discussion. The gender, the sexual orientation, the race, we already talk about it, but also the position that you have in the academic system. So basically we are here in an institute in the academia, so I think that it's good for us to coming back to our job. And I don't know, I think.
Right. Thank you very much. Before giving the word to the audience, I would like to make you a question. I mean, I remember that when Gracia and I was born, we were just a couple of people, and at the institute dinners, we started to joke about that, and more people started to say, yeah, and also in the closet, I would like to be a part of this. I mean, I think there is an elephant in the room, which is the problem of the closeted people. Is it worth it? I mean, and after all the explanation that Jara has given to us about harassment, etc., is it worth it? Is it necessary? What do you think about that? Which is your advice for young students, closeted? What would you say to them?
Should I go first?
And as you wish.
Okay. I mean, it's a very private thing. So I don't think that there is an answer which could be generalized. It depends on the person, and it also depends on the person in that specific moment, in that specific institution, is what you said. You're coming out like multiple times, and sometimes you can feel do not do it. Sometimes you are okay with it. I don't think that there should be a general rule. It's a fact, and it is also true, for example, with women in science. I was mentioning this before during the seminar, that if you have an example, it could be easier for you to feeling okay, feeling good. But still, I think no one should feel the pressure to do it only to be the example which would have people.
Wait. I think it's quite important to have a network that will support you, either friends, family, or finding new circles. Joining now, there are many actual associations of queer people in research. Joining one or going to an event is a good thing. I think, like, for instance, in Spain, we have Prisma. They do LGBT events in science, and there is also the Marie Corners conference, which is for all fields. And both of them are pretty good. In Granada, there are also many queer scientists, so talking to them in person is actually good. There is no general strategy for coming out. But in general, if you're in a city situation where people would not accept you, it's actually good to leave that place, because it's not your only option. It's actually good to come out. Your life becomes much better in general.
Well, there's a said in Spanish when we are going to address a difficult topic, which is open a melon, abrir un melón. And I think that this question was a little bit like that, because of course, your sexual preference are not the matter of a job interview or a grant application of whatever like that. But I can get that some work environments may become dangerous or harassing when it comes to coming out in a way that it's visible that you are a little bit deviant or a little bit queer or whatever. And I talk specifically about trans people, because when you transition into one within this binary spectrum, it is clear that something is going on. And I think that I don't know, Jara maybe can talk about that better, about her experience in Germany. But I mean, it's something that it's being made clear, and sometimes it may also carry with it some issues with your work environment. Or for instance, the example that I was giving before about introducing a little bit, like maybe I'm using like dating pronouns, right? And it was like 3 years ago, and the answer I received was like, okay, but that doesn't exist. And it's violent. I needed to leave the room, the dining room, because I was feeling like really overwhelmed about that thing coming straight from the mouth of the person that was working with me, like my superior at that time. And some people also about the non-binarism say that if you can cease passing, just don't get into this mess, right? I'm very aware that within this idea of non-binary spectrum, most of people read me as a white woman. And I know that also plays a little bit of privilege, because I can do this cis passing thing and pretend a little bit, drag a little bit, like Jara was saying, and nothing's wrong, right? But you feel inside yourself that you're not living your own experience, you're not living your own life, you're just faking. Or, I mean, I really feel myself like empowered in this idea of dragging, like this is a very, I don't know, flashy person giving lectures or something like that, and the flashy teacher talking about RuPaul or things like that to students. But on the inside, you know that there's something that really doesn't fit with that identity. And I want also to recall in this table that non-binary people don't owe anyone androgynism or this androgynous appearance. You can do that if you like. You can do that either if you're a butch lesbian, or if you're, I don't know, whatever, you just like that aesthetic, that's okay. It doesn't have anything to do with your gender identity. And I would say that that's an issue when it comes to coming out from the closet, from this particular kind of closet. So me personally, now I'm taking all the courage that I didn't have past years to say that and to be here and speak about that experience. But I will say that in some cases it can be like a very long, tricky path to transition to, like to go from one point to the other, to explain. It feels like you have to give explanations every single time about who are you, but why do you look like this, but why it's like you're being politicized all the time. So if you know that your environment is gonna be really freaky about it, try to take it easy, try to take your time for doing so. Don't be in a rush. Just feel your own times, feel your own path, and do your own truth. That's a little bit easy to say, but I think that's the better advice I can give to people in this situation.
And in this sense, I think this is important to have the site to talk about it. It's important to have the Gracia movement just appear. That's just people who talk about it. If you have the opportunity to participate on it, it's wonderful. If you don't want to, it's nature. I think it's like you talk about the intersectionality, and I really like to talk about all the types of discrimination, because it doesn't matter if it's about poverty or it's about gender or sexual orientation. It doesn't matter. It's like when you make adaptation for people with disabilities, this is useful for all of us, because it doesn't matter if the bathroom is bigger or if you have a ramp. This is useful for all. In this kind is the same. If you have the opportunity to have this kind of discussion, doesn't matter if you are or not out of the closet, you have the opportunity to have it.
I remember the first time I talked to Jara, she told me I'm very involved in the defense of all the people que está jodida, ¿no?
Did I say that?
You will do more like this. Do you want to add something, Jara, or you?
I would like to add a few things. So actually, when I was in the closet, I couldn't get accepted in a women group because I was non-binary but not woman enough. And when you come out, you get actually a superpower, which is this type of assholes. They avoid you or they exclude you. So they get out of your way for free. And it's a superpower. Actually, I use this when I go to the park. Some people don't want their kids to play with my kid, and they will literally take their kid and go away when they see how trans I am. And they do that, and it's actually like a service. You know, like I would pay them for doing that, but they do it for free. So you will lose some people when you come out, but you will make new friends, make new circles, and they are much more worth than those people who disappear. So just come out, it's much better. But also, I would like to add, you guys don't look normal. You have never looked normal to me. You have never had normal passing. I'm sorry, don't live in that. What is that fantasy like? Like people can see when you are like them or when you are not like them, and people detect this very fast in groups in our society. I don't know anything about that, why that works, because I am a physicist. But the people can see perfectly that you belong to their group or not. People always knew I was queer, autistic, and trans from the high school. Like they actually call me maricón, bollera, travesti, asexual, autista in school. It was anyway. I love you guys.
If we agree, we can ask the audience to make questions. Do you have any question, Matilde? Please.
I have a question for Rocío. I don't know if I had understood you properly in relation to internationalization. I understood you're against because you feel more comfortable in your community and you are worried about to be accepted in other community. Yeah, I think I had understood properly or not, because I think one of the most exciting things in research is to build wide network, to learn from other culture, from other countries. I understand also perhaps there is a risk to be accepted, but for everybody. But perhaps it's from my, I don't know, I could understand you properly or not.
I'm not saying I'm against internationality, but I think that that's a mold that will have to fit in mandatory in order to build a successful career. If you don't get that, you won't be accepted in so many grants. That's why I'm a little bit critical with. Because when we talk about internationalization, and I see it also with students, we make this list of countries that are more value than other countries. It doesn't matter if you just move a lot around the South, like the South in general, like the plural conception of South. And it would be more likable if you just go to, let's say, United States, Canada, Germany, Norway, Sweden, places like this. I see that there's like these countries in the first class, countries in the second class, and countries in the third class when it comes to science. And what I'm saying, I mean, I've been an international researcher too. I've been in Munich, I've been in Finland, things like that. But what I think it's a little bit also sad is that this is mandatory. You don't choose to go abroad. If you're researching something, for example, within your own community, it's very difficult to build a prolific career in your country if you don't go abroad. And I think that building networks, as you said, is super enriching, is wonderful, and getting people interested in the same field and building this great communication networks is amazing. But the thing that's the only way to build a prolific career, it's what makes me feel a little bit, meh. Why? Because if I don't want to, or I have a familiar issue, or I don't know, I have to be close to my parents because my father is ill, for example, I don't want to be in Sweden, for example. Or if, I don't know, I have my partner or my cat or whatever, I don't want to be across the Atlantic Ocean. I would love, if that's for the sake of my research, to make short stays, for example, 3 months, 6 months, but with the security that I'm coming back to my job, I can, again, develop my own career in my place, within my network. And it's not that thing of being accepted abroad, which I have things to talk about that, about my experience in Germany, but it's not the fact of being accepted, it's the fact that it's a mandatory thing. What really doesn't resonate with my ways of doing or researching. And also with the things of language, because I wrote my doctoral thesis in Spanish, and most of people were saying, why? Because it's a German author. You're researching like a German illustrator from the early 20th century in Austria. And yeah, I wrote the introduction and the conclusions in German because that's the thing about, and that's the more impact where I'm gonna get from. But why in Spanish? Everyone was asking me that. It's like, because I want to make this person known in my own scientific community. I really think that sometimes it would be beautiful if we could think less about the grades or the merits or whatever we're getting from these concurrencies and competitive environment, and we think a little bit more about our community to give the results of or research to the community. And I think that maybe is an issue that hits a little bit closer to social sciences and humanities, because of course we don't sell patents, we don't do anything like palpable, not to I don't know, to increase production or to increase technology or things like that. We're just there doing our thing. And that's why I feel also that imposing this kind of norms to every frame or to every discipline in this thing, this white thing that we call science, is not very fair, I would say. I don't know if I made myself clear.
Eleonora was
I totally agree with you, and I don't think this is the case only for human sciences. I mean, I do stuff formation, and I always have to say why what I research is useful. It is not. Okay, it's just for the sake of knowledge. It's just I want to know how stars form. But I have to lie. I mean, for getting grants, you have to lie. You have to say whatever things, machine learning stuff, whatever things, and then you get the. Yeah, that's true. That's true. This is how the funding works. No, I mean, I experienced the same. I'm from Italy. I went to Germany and I was fluent in English. I was getting my PhD in physics, and people didn't believe I was from Italy. Because I don't know what that. It's not, I mean, I'm white, so I haven't experienced all that kind of racist things that not white people experience, but I was feeling like, what do you think about, I mean, what it's like to be Italian from you? It's like, what? I just, I do have my brain, I can think, I can get a PhD in physics or astronomy or whatever. And it's true the other way around. In Hungary, it was completely the other way around. But I am a woman. I'm a cisgender woman, and for them it was crazy that I was 30 with no children, not married to anyone. It was actually a big problem because in order to open a bank account, they asked me whether I was married or not. I was like, how is this going to be important for you? And they were like, yeah, because after you will get married, so for sure I was going to get married, you will change your surname, getting your husband surname. So I was going to marry a man. And I was like, and I was also changing my surname. And that was violent. Okay, I was just opening a bank account. And as they say, it's not like that we can choose. It's mandatory to leave. And we are still talking in 2024 about maternity problems. How am I supposed to have a family if I'm supposed to change country to country every 2 or 3 years up to 40? It's like not biological possible. That is what. So I totally agree with the thanks for letting me talking further about it. Our system, the academic system, it's very fucked up, not only about gender and discrimination problem, but even if you're, and plenty of white, gender, heterosexual, male that experience some severe mental issues. Okay, sorry.
I want to say in many public Spanish universities, it's not mandatory to work abroad to get a permanent position. We can see.
Yeah, but
I say in the skills I see it's mandatory.
I
I
think-
would say in about country, Rocío, well, I am all enough. And I have working in Germany, but also in East European countries, as Hungary, as Czechia, and also in Morocco. During your career, you can have also different countries, not only the
I
rich
think
ones.
the conversation is very interesting, but during the roundtable, we have spoken about a lot of more issues, and I think we can discuss that afterwards because it's very interesting.
Sorry, can I just add 2 things that I think
But this has because
at some point could we maybe make a protest and suggest to the European Union that we make illegal to value living abroad for more than 3 months in cities, because I think this is obviously abusive, like that they value that you leave your country. It's violates all inclusion, equality programs, everything, because you shouldn't have to do that. It's too much. And also journals that make money.
Yeah.
Journals.
It's just capitalism.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank all these people trying to share their ideas in the Institute. This is the first round table organized in this matter in the Institute. I am sorry, I have to introduce myself. I am Pepa Masagosa. I work here I am coordinating the Equality Committee. Till 2 months ago, it was a Equality Committee between men and women. And now, following the resolution from the United Nations, we have included intersectionality. But I miss in the thing you have been discussing. I have been working with the problem of women entering into the academy, and from 40 years ago. And we have been following how has been the progress. We made a lot of number on this, and we can identify some discrimination. We have corrected some, others we still were not allowed to be solved. And the thing I miss in the round table is how important, because I normally look at the number and see how many. I was asking before to Eleonora that this reference paper by the Royal Astronomical Society, how many people, how is the percentage of people that fill the survey, because this is important in order to be if it is biased or not. And now that I have to change my quality plan in the Institute. And for this challenge, I want to identify and to quantify how large is the population that identify not in the heterosexual, and which are the particular problems for this population and how big it is, because in the DaSCI we don't know. I discussed this with the Prisma organization, that they need to put number to see if because we are in Spanish, we say poner el parche antes de la herida, because we don't know in the CSIC how large is this population, because if it's 1% of the people, well, is something that, of course, needs to be taken into account, but it's not the same that is like in the case of women, we are the 50%. So that's, I would like to know if you have some reference where I can have a look. I have been following this question of the queer that came from the patriarchal, just to raise women in the 90s, and this happened in Canada or United States, so that it was well known, and I have been following all this a lot this year, what is going on, but I need a statistic of this situation, because when I look to intersexuality, the percentage of people that are intersexual are really is less than 0.01%. So that is something that now when you take the challenge, I need to make a new equality plan that make the life easier in the institute. I need to quantify how big the population and which type of discrimination are having and all these things.
Do you have numbers? Do you?
Actually, I would recommend you to look at surveys, because there are many surveys reports every year done by several associations. But I don't know, I think she reviewed some of them, but also Prisma, the association, frequently gives talks of this kind. So maybe I would recommend to actually check out their resources, the Prisma association.
The numbers for the DaSCI.
But do you want the numbers of the like the society or in astronomy?
In the DaSCI. Every year there is a committee for equality of women in science. They provide the numbers, and we make correction of what measurement we need to implement.
Okay.
In order to solve this. But in the case, I have been talking with Prisma, and they have the challenge now making by the Comisión de Igualdad de SIC, just to provide the numbers for this, for LGBTIQ plus.
Okay, so
Is how to get the number out.
Sorry, but you've done a survey in CSIC?
No.
Why don't you do it?
yeah.
We just have now.
No. I mean, that's the point. At CERN, I mean, there are tools on Google. You just Google it and have the tools, and then you do your own survey in the institute if this is what you need, or you talk with other institutions to get like a survey in Spain, in Andalucía, or whatever you want. The fact that there are not numbers out there doesn't mean that it is not possible to have those numbers. It also depends on the numbers that you want. I don't know, I mean, I'm an expert on Italy, maybe who is from Spain knows better the situation here, but there are studies going on. The fact that now the numbers about women and men are so effective and robust is because it's ages since we started doing this, while on the other side, for LGBTQI plus numbers, we're still in the process. So if you need those numbers for whatever reason, I would recommend you to talk with people that could have it. And if you're looking for numbers in Spain, I'm not the most suitable person. But also to do some like surveys. However, I mean, I do like numbers, I'm a scientist, but I don't think that I'm not sure if this is like the best approach to solve the problem, because as I said before, it sages since we all acknowledge the fact that there is a gender problem between male and female representation in the academia, but it is not solved. So it's good to do some regulation looking at the numbers. I'm totally fine with it, but it's not only doing this kind of stuff that you solve the problem. I mean, this is what we are learning with women and men. Also, there is another point of discussion. For example, for women, there is what they call a paradox. The fact that the Southern European countries who are more like conservative on their gender issues does have the higher percentage of astronomers. I'm talking about astronomy because this is how I know. So for example, in Spain and indeed in Italy, there are more female permanent positions in astronomy than, for example, in Germany and here in the UK. But this is not actually a paradox. This is related to the fact that the job of a researcher is well paid in Germany and UK and not paid so much like in Spain or in Italy. So there is also this problem. I just wanted to mention it because this never came out and I think it's important also.
Just to comment on what you're saying, I think that having the numbers doesn't tell you how to solve the problems, but having the numbers is important to know whether, once you have implemented an action, if this action is useful or not to change the numbers. So you have to know the numbers and follow them up along the time and in relation with the actions you put against the problems. And if you don't have them, you cannot measure.
Just to clarify, there are many tools that you can use out there to actually measure all of these things. If you need training, I am happy to do a training workshop. I actually do training workshops, but there are many tools out there. If you do a survey at CSIC studying these issues, it's publishable material. So I don't understand why you don't do the survey.
But I mean, well, in CSIC, for instance, we have we ask for having the information segregated in women and men, because at the beginning we had no numbers about that, but we don't have the information analyzed or whatever to have to be able to make such a research on the numbers about anything. So you have to survey, and in that case you are willing to accept that you won't have the whole information because only people answering to the survey will be included. So I think that it's important to know how many boxes we have to put for identifying people, for example, and to know how many of them we need, in order that it can be made automatically and anonymously, and then we have access to the full information and then to the full statistics.
Yeah, can I answer a little thing about what you were saying? At the beginning, I know that that's a way to prove the impact of the actions that are being taken on that matter, but I'm really concerned about the idea of classifying things in boxes, because when it comes to this kind of divisions, because you guys are talking about women and men, there's gay men that are not subjected to the same violence that other men, or are not following the same path as other men, but they're still men. And also there are lesbian women that are not being touched by the same issues that cis heterosexual women. There's trans women, there's trans men, there are non-binary people, there are intersexual people, which are things that are not the same. So how are we building these categories? And most importantly, because I think that this issue really reconnects with the thing I was telling at the beginning, most importantly is not how do we call these people, how do we divide these people, how do we categorize these people? Because also between women and men, there's like racialized men that doesn't have the same issues as white men, racialized women that doesn't have other issues. I mean, this is all about intersectionality. And to do so, I would focus less on these categories, and I will focus more about group interventions, listening to the people, doing this survey to track how's the plurality of the community in that institute, in science, in this department, whatever. Just let's track what is the diversity like in this place. And then we take these people and we talk to them, we hear their own struggles. We also take other intersections into account. For example, if they're also working or not, because violence are not the same if you're upper class or lower class or middle class. So I think that this kind of impacts are a little bit sterile when it comes to real changes. And I really focus on this idea of putting these people that are touched by these issues on the table to speak about solutions. And I will mention here that we, as the group Antirracismo Granada, wanted to communicate and to talk with the Department of Equality in University of Granada, with the Vicerrectorado, because they were redoing some things in the equality procedure, in the equality manifesto that they also had. And they said that they're well covered just with the gender issues. They don't need like anti-racist approaches to that. And we were like, really? Are you aware of the difficulties of people coming from the South in general, like from under the Ecuador, coming from African countries, coming from Latin American countries, that are paying more taxes, that need to work here sometimes, that they're really depending on this visa thing? I mean, of course, their inclusion within science and within this kind of institutes, is not the same. And if you add on top of that, the queer thing, it's even more complicated. So instead of putting people into boxes or categories, I will first track how is the environment in my place and then talk to them. I know that's not very scientist, but I think that when it comes to improving people wellness in this kind of environments, we don't need numbers, we need actions.
We have 5 more minutes, so if you want, last
I will be
question
very
and
brief.
a last reflection for you.
It's not actually a question, it's more like the conclusion for me is that we have homework to do in the AA and the DaSCI. So that's like, as you said, we have to do this work if you don't have it. And yeah, only that. Thank you very much.
We have 5 minutes, so if you want to say some words to close the table, you are welcome. Please, Jara.
Just some things to evaluate. When you make anti-harassment protocols or anti-mobbing protocols or protocols for working with people in general in your environment, what we usually do is the first thing you need to do is surveying the demographics of your group, because you need to know what your group problems are, to identify risk scenarios. For instance, you are making an anti-fire protocol, what is the risk that something is set on fire? You're monitoring harassment, then what are the scenarios where harassment is more likely to happen? And you usually just survey at different groups what is the probability that they will experience something. But also you measure how frequently do they feel feelings of abandoning the place. How included do they feel? Do they feel otherhood? Do they have frequent thoughts of leaving the academia? And you also get data of people who live in this way. If all institutions in Spain do this, which is what they should be doing, you have data from all institutions. And it's actually basic statistics, you get very good numbers from this. Like it's a within probability measure convergence. But it's actually easy. People have been doing this for decades. It's not. Yeah. Thank you.
So last, please, last take home messages from here to there or from there to here. Óscar?
No, I'm not in the PhD. We don't need to know the number of blind person in the physics to think about a solution for this blind person, for singular person. I don't know if you know the percentage of LGBT person in the society. We could make a quick quiz. Do you think that is less than 1%, between 1 and 5%, 5% to 10%, or more than 10%? What do you think?
Around 10%.
More than 10%. It's quantified 9% in the society,
Yeah.
9% in Spain. So this is the data. I don't really need to know if in the physics we have only 1 or 3 or 20 people. We need to think about the inclusion methods to make all the inclusion with all the people.
Even though it's 1%.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Óscar. Rocío?
I just have the feeling that I've set this thing on fire quite enough.
Thank you. Para Juan?
I actually once almost burned the university, but that was an accident. And it was me. And it was my fault. And I'm so sorry. No, thank you for listening. It was great to be here. If you want to discuss more, we can talk later in the break.
Eleonora?
No, I just want to say that gender studies are a field of knowledge. It's not like we wake up one morning and we do have a feeling about all the differences that we have on a certain, I don't know, about gender or about sexual orientation or about whatever. It's there are people that actually wrote papers and essay, there are books, it's an open field of research. There are books publishing daily. So since I believe in research, I think that the solution can pass through studying it. There is material. So I think that knowing more and more and more, and also practicing what we learn, talking with other people is like the basic, the 0 level to start a discussion about it. So I don't know, I can provide some milestones. I think that we can all but then it's really like, it's the same when you do a research for your paper. Maybe you know a very famous reference, and then reading that paper, you have to read more and more and more papers to get the sense of that exactly sentence. And this is like the same for gender studies. And after doing this, and at least for me, it became very clear that you never stop and learning new things. And also, I mean, I feel that it's true that we need population and we need data. It's just that STEMs are different than gender studies. Okay, so if we keep trying to translate our own scientific approach to this specific topic, we may not reach the goal. This is my feeling. And thanks a lot for this opportunity to discuss about it.
Thank you very much. Please have a big applause. Thank you. Thank you very much for attending this roundtable. It has been very interesting. I think now we will have the time to take some data and to discuss about that. I guess it's foreseen. If someone in the institute needs help with this kind of help and support with this kind of LGBTIQ plus stuff, please contact the Gracia, which will be more than glad to help you. And please do not forget that on Friday at 7:30, we see everybody at the demonstration at Plaza Isabel la Católica, second IAA Gay LGBTIQ plus demonstration of history.
Yeah. I have a free dance workshop on Thursday. Queer dance workshop. Please ask me about it if you're interested. ¿Qué? Aquí hay que terminar con que no se seria. Bueno.